recording. All right. All right. So we are holding in Maseches Nazir. And Nazir comes right after Maseches Nedarim. Due to the fact that, as we spoke about last time, Naziris and Nedarim are very close related, as we're going to see tonight from this tshuva from the Avnei Miluyim. But Maseches Nazir, in its 66 dapim, go through the halachos of Nazir in depth. Through learning the laws of Nazir in depth, you get a greater understanding of the general category of hafla, of declarations, halachos related to declarations as well. A lot of inyani kudshim. It is a wonderful masechta. There is discussion as to why Nazir is not in Seder Taros or Seder Kudshim. Why is it in Seder Nashim? And it's basically because it comes directly after Nedarim. They're two very closely related masechtas, and the same reason we gave last week for Nedarim being in Seder Nashim is that the context for Nedarim in the Torah is through the context of marriage. That the fact that the Baal, under certain circumstances, has control over his wife's Nedarim, and therefore can annul them, can force her to keep them, whatever it may be. There, the different circumstances that apply. And being that it is something related directly to marriage, that's why it's in Seder Nashim. And Nazir also is something that if a woman were to take on Nazirus, then that just like Nedarim is subject to the Baal being Mayfair, the Baal potentially nullifying it, or being Mekayim the Neder, or forcing her to keep it. That's a classic question that Rabbi Shechter likes to ask, that how do you know that a woman can be a Nazir? So, when the question gets thrown at you, you kind of scratch your head. But when you think for a second, you realize, oh, it's a pasuk in the Torah, right? The pasuk says, Ish o Isha, that if a man or a woman were to accept upon themselves Nazirus. So these halachos of Nazirus, a Nazir is very unique type of neder, as we're going to see tonight from the Avnei Miluyim.
Wasn't it that famous queen?
What was that?
It was that famous queen who was a Nazir for like 15 years, wasn't she? She was like a Nazir for 5 years outside the land of Israel, then came to land.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm blanking now. Yes, you're right. You're right.
But I guess that's why I knew a woman could be a Nazir, not because of the pasuk.
Wait, isn't that's the Gemara in Sukkah, right? Doesn't the Gemara in Sukkah talk about that? What's her name?
I don't remember. I remember from when I did Nazir, not when. It's a Mishnah, no, in Nazir. I'm thinking like Alexandra or something, but I don't think it's a...
Right. So the Avnei Miluyim discusses a halacha related to Nedarim and also to Nazirus, and he gives a yesod of the uniqueness of a Nazir. All right, so what we'll do tonight is a little bit unique than what we usually do. We'll go through the tshuva, because it's a geshmak and it's a famous tshuva, and it's important to know in the yesodos of Nedarim and Nazirus. Says the Avnei Miluyim the following. The Avnei Miluyim, by the way, is the same author as the Ketzos HaChoshen. Ketzos, Rabbi Aryeh Leib Heller HaKayin, wrote the Sefer Ketzos HaChoshen, wrote the Shev Shmaitza, the Avnei Miluyim, Geshmaka Svarim. The Avnei Miluyim is a Sefer in Lamdus and Halacha on Shulchan Aruch Chelik Even Ezer, the laws of marital law. So says the Avnei Miluyim the following in Simin Tes Vav in Chelik Aleph. Kasav HaRashba B'tshuva Simin Taf Reish Tes Vav Zelashono. So he quotes from the Rashba the following. Had Nedarim Chalin al Dvar Mitzvah. So someone, the Gemara tells us in Nedarim in a couple of places, Gemara and Daf Zayin and Daf Tes Vav, that if someone were to create a neder on a Dvar Mitzvah, to do a mitzvah, that the neder would work. The Shulchan Aruch writes the following: Nedarim chalam al dvar mitzvah ketzad amar konam sukkah shani yoshev lulav shani notel aser leishe besukkah v'lito lulav. That if a person were to take a neder on something that is a mitzvah, let's say they take a neder that they are not going to sit in the sukkah in this specific sukkah, or they're not going to take this lulav is usher to me, so then it would be usher to sit in the sukkah or take that lulav. So a neder could be chal on a dvar mitzvah. So says the Rashba, dafka b'mitzvahs essay. That only applies to a positive commandment. That a neder can only be chal on a positive commandment. Aval,
It can only be on.
Essay. What?
Can it be on? I won't sit in a sukkah, or I won't sit in this specific sukkah.
Well, a neder by definition needs to be on a chefza, needs to be on an object. It can't be on a maisa gavra. That would be a shvua. So a shvua is not chal on a mitzvah. Okay, but a neder would be. Basically, what you're saying is that I can't get hana from this particular chefza. This particular chefza, I happen to also need to fulfill a mitzvah with it. So says the Gemara that a neder could be chal on a dvar mitzvah. Okay, but that's only for a positive commandment, not a negative commandment. This is what the Rashba says. Avalo mitzvahs lo saseh, not a lo saseh. Da'ama lo chal, bein bebitulo, bein bekiyumo. Okay, so it says, what would be the example, says the Rashba? Haresha Amar, Achilas Nevela Alai, Ein Haneder Chalalav. Now, let's say a person says that this piece of treif is usher to me. Okay? So, and then they eat the piece of meat. So, how many prohibitions have they violated? So, they've only violated the prohibition of eating nevela. They have not violated the prohibition of bal yachel, of violating your neder, because the neder is not chal on a dvar, on something that's already prohibited to me. Okay? And let's say something that you made prohibited yourself. Let's say I take a shvua that I am not going to eat this piece of bread. The Amar Kikazer Alai, and then you say, not only am I not going to eat this piece of meat, but this piece of meat, I'm not going to get any hana from. Meaning so you take a shvua that you made the isser upon you, isser gavra, and then you put the isser on the chefza. That second isser you did on the chefza is not going to be chal, because it already was usher to me, based on my shvua. Okay, that's ein isser halal isser. And then you eat it, so you would only be chayiv one malchus. For violating the shvua, not for the neder. Continues the Rashba, and he says, and this is the line that the Avnei is going to focus on. That was all last week's stuff. Now this week, Nazir. Let's say a person takes a shvua that they're not going to drink wine. V'chazer v'amar harini nazir, and then they say, I'm going to become a nazir. Okay, so they already took a shvua that wine is usher to them, and then they accept nazirus, the shasa, and then they drink eino chayav ela achas. They only get one set of lashes. The hainu bal yachal shvua, for the shvua that they violated by drinking the wine, aval the nazirus lo, but not for the nazirus. Okay.
But they are actually Nazir, right?
Says Ayin Sham. What was that?
Sorry. There are actually Nazir. They
are a Nazir. Yeah, they're a Nazir.
The prohibition of wine for them is from a shvua, not from
double.
a Nazir.
The prohibition of wine is for the shvua they made, not for the nazirus that they took upon themselves. Okay, that's an important distinction you just made. Very important distinction we're going to get to. So now comes along and he says, "V'chein pasuk b'Shulchan Aruch Yoredeya simin reish tesvav seif hey ayin sham." Okay, so let's take a look. The Shulchan Aruch, he quotes from the Shulchan Aruch in seif hey. Had nedarim chal madvar mitzvah dafka b'mitzvahs essay. That's only by a positive commandment. Bein sheish ba essay greda, bein sheish ba essay b'kiyuma, v'lo yisa essay b'bitula, v'ein hefresh b'zeh bein isra ba me'elav le'isra ba ayidei atzma. So says the Shulchan Aruch, passing exactly what we just said, that that a neder could be chal on a dvar mitzvah, only a positive commandment. Basically, that I'm making the lulav usher to me, but not if I have a shvua I already took, or I'm taking a neder on something that's already usher to me, then the neder is not going to be chal. Aval mitzvahs lo yisa esei da'alma eino chal b'mitul b'mikuma. Okay, fine. All right, and then he says the part about the Nazir.
This is all a quote in the.
Someone takes a shua that they're not going to drink wine, and then they say Nazir v'shasa eno chayav ella achas. They're only going to be liable once. The hainu al bal yachal the shua for violating the shua by drinking the wine. Aval the nazirus lo. Okay. Exactly the way that the Rashba paskin, the Shulchan Aruch paskins. Asks
the Shulchan Aruch is quoting the Rashba?
Yeah.
Okay.
Vikasha li tuva, says the Avnei Miluim, I have a fantastic question. Dahad b'nezirus ne'asar b'shlosha minim b'tiglachas v'tuma v'yayin. Nazir has 3 prohibitions. I'm not allowed to shave my head. I'm not allowed to, if someone says Harini Nazir, you're not allowed to shave your head. You're not allowed to drink wine, and you're not allowed to go to a Beis HaKfaros. You're not allowed to become Tamei Mace. This is the Mishnah in the beginning of the 6th chapter of Nazir, that this is what it means to be a Nazir. If someone accepts this upon themselves, then these things are usher to them. So hold on. Says the Avnei Miluim, and with this we have to give a little bit of background, that there are different types of prohibitions. And the different types of prohibitions present themselves differently in how they are treated when triaged with other averos. Okay, so an example is an Isser Kolel. An Isser Kolel is it's an umbrella prohibition. Okay, an umbrella prohibition would be like, for example, eating on Yom Kippur. So eating on Yom Kippur, not only is it prohibited for me to eat kosher food, but there's a prohibition on Yom Kippur for me to eat non-kosher food. So if someone were to eat non-kosher food on Yom Kippur, not only are they violating the prohibition of eating non-kosher, but they are also violating the prohibition of eating on Yom Kippur. Okay, it's an umbrella prohibition. An umbrella prohibition, you could have an Isser Chal on an Isser, meaning that if, let's say, I took a neder not to, which tzaddik is here?
The slow one.
Oh, Rabbi Ilan Daniel, Shalom Aleichem. Let's say I took a neder not to, eat M&Ms, okay? And then on Yom Kippur, I eat M&Ms. So that's an Isser, Chal al Isser, and yet I get both sets of lashes. Why? Because Yom Kippur is an Isser Kolel, okay? An Isser Kolel is Chal on another Isser. So says the Avnei Miluim that our scenario of Nazir is an Isser Kolel. A Nazir has more than just the prohibition of wine associated with it. It also has the prohibition, as you pointed out before, Gavin, it has the prohibition of cutting your hair and the prohibition of Tumah associated with it.
So it should be like
that. It is an umbrella prohibition. Okay, it's an umbrella prohibition. So the umbrella prohibition should make it that there is an Isser Halal Isser, that when I drink the wine, I should get flagged twice. I should get flogged for the drinking of the wine for the Shavua that I made, and then as well for the Nazirus that I took, because of the fact that it is an umbrella prohibition encompassing a number of different prohibitions. That's the question that the Avnei Miluim asks on the Shulchan Aruch and on the Rashba. Why is it that we say Ein Isser of Nazirus, Chal al Isser Shvua of the Yayin? Clear on the question?
Yeah, but okay, just to say, when you say umbrella, I mean, is it, when you say it's a prohibition that, so when let's say I make a vow, and then I make another vow that encompasses that, but includes other things, the second vow takes effect, right? Is that what you're saying? Like it's umbrella in that sense?
Right. Exactly. So, right. So an example would be, let's say, I take a I
Well, we
take
have
a
the vow.
neder that I'm not going to eat M&Ms, and then I have a shvua that somehow in the language of a shvua that I'm not going to have any candy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I've just created an iser kolel. So that iser kolel is going to be chal on the iser of the neder. Okay. So now, as the Av Miluyim, Nazir is an iser kolel, so it should be chal on the neder that I took on the yain, on the
In
shvu.
which case, I should get 2 sets of lashes.
So I should get 2, but that's not what's paskin in Shulchan Aruch.
Nope.
Didn't you only get punished for once for doing something?
Go read Christos, boy. You can do
What was
one sin
that?
and get.
Can you only get punished once for a sin?
No, you only get. There's 2 different sins, Lan. It's not that you.
Right. So I get punished twice.
There's Christos. where you get like-
chayev mishum nezirus dehazeh havelei kenishba shaloi leechol nevelos v'shchutos dechayel shvua. He gives a different example. Let's say a person takes a shvua that I'm not going to eat any slaughtered meat, any killed meat. So I already have a prohibition against eating nevela, but now I created an even larger umbrella prohibition of any killed meat, and that includes kosher and non-kosher, and therefore that would be shvua chal. That would be iser chal iser. Okay, v'lechora yesh lomar. Okay, so first he has one go at it. He gives the following answer. You could answer simply based on Tosos. Dahacha lav kolel. That Nazirus is not an Isser Kola. Why? Kimashikasav Tosos b'Yavamis. Because Tosos in Yavamis and Daf Lamed Beis has Yesod. That Isser Kolel, what's the definition of an Isser Kolel? Is the Kol She'eno Mishem Echad Lo Yahave Isser Kolel. Isser Kolel is only if there's one type of, meaning there's one title to the prohibition. And the prohibition can be violated in a number of different ways. Versus through one declaration, I make a number of separate things usher upon myself. And each one is a standalone isser. So according to Tosos, let's go back to the Yom Kippur example. On Yom Kippur, that is kolel on every isser in the world. And any of all prohibited machalios asuros, anything that would be prohibited for me to eat, Yom Kippur is umbrella on top of that, because I'm not allowed to eat anything on Yom Kippur, nothing, and it's all the same prohibition of violating eating on Yom Kippur. Here, though, you could say, says the Avnei Miluyim, that Nazir is not like that, because each prohibition is separate. There's a separate prohibition of drinking wine. There's a separate prohibition of going to the cemetery, and a separate prohibition of cutting your hair.
If I was cutting my hair in a cemetery while drinking wine, I'd get 3 sets of lashes.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Essentially, that's what the Gemara seems to be saying. That's what the Avnei Miluyim seems to be saying. So, and that is true, by the way. That is true. The Gemara makes that very clear on Daf Lamed Ches in Nazir. So now. Continues the Avnei Miluyim, and he says, "Hachanami tiglachas v'tuma lav v'nei atzman v'yayin lav v'nei atzma." There's 3 separate lavin over here. There's tuma, tiglachas, and yayin. 3 completely separate lavin. Cutting your hair, tuma, and drinking wine. Who the lo have mishem echad. It's not all one It's not all under the same title of prohibition. There are 3 separate prohibitions. So, but says the Avnei Miluyim, he doesn't like this answer. Ela da'akati tikshi. He says you could still ask the question we're asking, that why is it you're not going to get flogged twice? Meaning, why wouldn't we say that the isser of Nazir of Nazir specifically with wine is going to be chal on the shvua I already took to prevent me from drinking wine? He says, Kivan dim avar v'gilach o nitma o shasa yayin lo k'mishum bal yachel. Because there's another prohibition by Nazir, says the Avnei Miluyim. Not only is there the prohibition of drinking wine, cutting your hair, and becoming contaminated by tumas mace, but there's another prohibition of a Nazir, and that's bal yachel. violating your word, which we know exists by Nidarim, and we know exists by Nazirus, that if I accept Nazirus upon myself and I violate that Nazirus, and I can violate it in a number of different ways, but nevertheless, I went against my word. Lo yachel dvaro. I cannot go against the word of my mouth. And therefore, since I violated my word, that in and of itself is a prohibition. So you see, says the Avnei Miluim, that you see, says the Avnei Miluim, that Nazirus is also an Isser Kolel. It's also an umbrella Isser. It has an umbrella Isser of Bal Yachel. So Hadra Kosher L'Duchtia goes back now to the beginning of our question, which is Im Kain Kasha Amai Loy Lucky Mishum Bal Yachel de Nazir Nami Kivin de Bal Yachel de Nazir Kolol Kol Gimel Minin Teglachas Tum of Yain. He says,
I want to translate that.
therefore, we go back to the original question of that you should get flogged twice against the Shulchan Aruch and against the Rashba. You should get 2 sets of lashes. One for drinking the wine that goes against the shvua that you made, and number 2 for Bal Yachel on the wine itself. You hear? Because Bal Yachel is an umbrella Isser.
But isn't that the same Issa that you had when you took the wine? That you made the oath in the first place. Isn't that one of the reasons you get the flog?
Say it again.
When you took the original oath. Sorry, the Rabbeinu Tam is here. When you took the original oath.
Rabbeinu Tam, this is Lumdisha stuff. This is right up your alley. Yeah.
When you took the original oath.
Yeah, it's geschmack. It's Lumdisha stuff. Yeah.
The fact that you took an oath to prevent you from drinking wine, and now you took an oath to become a Nazir, is it the same? Is it then the same?
Those are two different Bal Yachels.
Yeah, but I'm saying if it's the same, but they're both Bal Yachel, so that means they're from the same category? Or did they have, because like the reason we said that.
No. They're qualitatively different Bal Yachels. They're 2 different Bal Yachels. There's the Bal Yachel specifically by the Shvua, but here, this Bal Yachel is an umbrella Bal Yachel. It's an Isser Kolol Bal Yachel. You're right. It's the same prohibition of that you violate where the Torah says Lo Yachel Dvaro, but you just stooped on one Bal Yachel on top of another. That's a much bigger one. It's an umbrella Bal Yachel, and therefore it should go under the category of Isser Kolel is Chal al Isser. Right? That's what I think. That's the assumption that the.
I think that's what he's saying. But yeah.
So here, let's take a look. The Rambam. I wanted to show you the Rambam. So here's the Gemara in Nazir on Daf Lamed Ches that says that there is Bal Yachel by Nazirus. The Gemara says over here, similar to what you were saying before, that let's say a person was Achel Anavim Lechaim V'Yeveshim. A person ate grapes. They fresh grapes and dried out grapes. They grapes, raisins, charatzim, vizagim, the seeds, the branches, the vines. Of the grape. V'sachat eshkol shalanavim v'shasa, and then they squeeze the grapes and they drink the grape juice. Okay, so you basically ate from the grapevine in 5 different ways. Loke chamesh, you get 5 sets of lashes. Ihachi lilki sheish. So says the Gemara, well, really you should get 6. Oh, thank you. Really you should get 6.
One for violating his word.
Oh, so achasam lekol asher yaseh. One is for the prohibition of I can't eat from any part, meaning that's a separate prohibition. There's separate for each part of the grape and for the entire eating from a vineyard. And then the Gemara says, oh, so kind of a shire. No, it left out some. My shire. So what did it leave out? So the Gemara says, what do you mean? The high shire. We just said what it left out. So shire lo yachel dvaro. What it left out is you shall not break your word, which is, by the way, lo yachel. It's the same lo yachel in the pasuk in Nedarim, in Parshas Matos. This is the Gemara. The Rambam quotes it just exactly the same. Afar v'gilech o nitma o achal. Let's say a person a nazir shaves their head, will become tameh, or they eat migefen hayayin. They drink from they eat from the vineyard. Hareza lokashtayim. You get 2 lashes. Achas mishum lo yachal dvaro. One is for violating the word. Shekol kol hanedarim, including nazirus. Achas mishum davar sha'avar alav midvarim sha'asurin iser miyuchad ala nazir. And one specifically for the prohibition of violating the nazirus.
So if he did all 3 of them, or just any one of them, he would get 2.
Any one, you get 2.
Okay.
If you violate any one of those things, you get 2 sets of lashes.
And what happens if you violate 2? You get.
So why shouldn't you wait? You should ask a different question. I thought you were going to ask. The Gemara before said that if you ate the grape in all 5 different ways, you get 5 lashes. And then the Gemara said, no, you really get 6 because of Bal Yachel.
Yeah.
It should really be 10.
Well, that was my next question, actually.
I thought you were going to ask that question, right?
If you're breaking your word twice, or you're breaking your word once, just in 2 different ways.
You're breaking Nazir in 5 different ways, so you're breaking your word in 5 different ways.
Well, you only say Nazir once.
That's not what the Gemara seems to say. That's what I was thinking the same thing, Rabbeinu Tam. The Gemara, I don't know.
Same. Almost all of us thought the same thing.
I didn't think.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue in the it's geschmack. Let's continue in the Avnei Miluim.
You know, if you actually sit closer, you can actually see all 3 of us instead of just me.
You know, I think
it's the way he angles his
Tom
camera.
and Rabbi and Daniel are nervous about
Being on camera.
Rabbi Yonasan ben Uziel, they're nervous about if their energy, if their kedusha comes off, they might ruin some of the food, right? So they don't want to get too close. They want to ruin your food. Kibbud Avayim. Okay. So he says, so this is a problem because Bal Yachel is an Isser Kola, and therefore we should say that you should get 2 sets of lashes every time that you that when you drink the wine. Again, you took a shvua, I'm not going to drink wine, and then you became a Nazir. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if you drink wine, you only get 1 set of lashes for the shvua that you violated. Ask the Avnei Miluim, I should get 2 sets of lashes. 1 for the shvua that I violated, meaning I violated Bal Yachel of my shvua, and also for the Bal Yachel of my nazirus for drinking the wine.
But if you drink wine, it's even worse now. Because if you drink wine as a Nazir, you get 2 from being a Nazir. 1 for violating Nazirus and 1 for the vow.
The one for violating the one for the prohibition of drinking the wine, Bal Yochal as the Gemara calls it. Okay.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get because that would be ein iser halal iser because of the shvua that
So it's already iser, okay.
Right? There's already an iser on the eating of the grapes.
Mm-hmm.
The only potential one the Avnei Miluim is proving is the Bal Yachel of Nazirus. Okay? Let's go weiter. So says the Avnei Miluim. Geschmack. So hine la'anias daiti. It appears to me, la'anias daiti, in my humble opinion, Bezeh, I could answer the following: the Fima Shikasev Ma'arit, Chelak Aleph Simin Nun Gimel Yardea. So says the Ma'arit the following: Levar Inyan Isure Nazir Mahin. So we touched on this last week, but now we're really seeing it in depth. The Ma'arit has a yesod that defines what really is the prohibition of Nazir. There are those that assume, which is a whole machlokas in the Rishonim. There are those that assume that Nazirus is an Isser Cheftza, meaning that you prohibit certain objects upon yourself. Okay, wine, cutting your hair. You prohibit the contact of the dead bodies, however you would frame that as an Isser Cheftza, but it's an Isser Cheftza. Kamo neder dehave ke Isser piv liyayin v'saro l'tiglachas v'gufo l'toma. So he says that it's like you're prohibiting your mouth from drinking wine, meaning that there's an Isser Hefza over here on the wine, and there's an Isser Hefza on cutting the hair. There's an Isser Hefza on your body contracting the tumah of a mace. V'yesh mishas over, and there are those that say that Nazirus have a Isser Gavra, that Nazirus is an Isser Gavra, like a Shvua, kemo Shvua da karkafta de Gavra, that it goes on me, that I am not allowed to act a certain way. Okay, I'm not allowed to drink wine. I'm not allowed to cut my hair. I'm not allowed to go to a Beis HaKfaros. Manach iser de karkafta de gavra manach umaharit sham herich berayos vehela lo kedivrei zeh velo kedivrei zeh. The Maharit has an extensive essay on this, where he proves that it is like neither. It is not an Isser Hefza, and it's not an Isser Gavra.
Believe you're not getting chicken tomorrow.
What is it? Lo kedivrei zeh, lo kedivrei zeh. The Nazirus lav Isser Gavra kishvua v'lav Isser Hefza k'nedarim ela Isser Torah. The Rami Rachmana al HaNazir b'hanach shlosha dvarim. Rather, it's a special type of prohibition from the Torah that applies to these three things of drinking wine, cutting your hair, and going to the Beis HaKfaros. Ha'asurim b'nazir v'hu inyan to'ar nazir shuhu kadosh v'asra Torah al Torah nazir hanach gimel minim. Rather, it's a specific type of kedusha that is chal, a specific type of holiness that applies to a nazir, and therefore, due to that kedusha, permeates from there is the prohibition of these three things.
It's like becoming almost like you could make a prohibition to become a Kohen, and once you become a Kohen.
So we have with us the Rabbeinu Tam. We have with us Rabbi Ilan Daniel. And now, Gavin, we have to start calling you the Avnei Miluyim. It's literally the next line that he says. Ukemosha asra Torah kama yisuran al kedushas kohen ayin sham.
Blowing my nose, did you not hear?
Boys, you have to start referring to your father as the Avnei Miluyim.
I just happy if they call me the Av.
So it says exactly like that, Gavin. It's exactly what the Avnei Miluyim says. You're creating a kedusha on you, and therefore your kedusha has certain responsibilities associated with it, like not drinking wine, not cutting your hair, not going to a Beis HaKfaros, exactly like a Kohen. It's like you are creating that type of a kedusha upon yourself. Ulevizeh, now says the Avnei Miluyim, now we can understand. Ulevizeh yahin da aser benazir, that now we understand that the wine that is prohibited to a nazir, ein ze iser haba al yedei atzmo. This isn't that I took it upon myself to not drink wine. Ela iser sha'asra Torah al Torah kedushaso. Rather, it's that I said I am accepting upon myself the kedusha of a nazir. Ukeshehu over al gimel isurin elu sha'asra alav haTorah hu loka aleim v'gam loka abal yachel. And therefore, the Torah said, now that you've accepted the kedusha upon yourself, now there's specific types of responsibility. And therefore, if you drink wine, you just violated the Torah prohibition of drinking wine as a nazir. You violated your kedusha, and you violated your word of Bal Yachel. So now, why does this all make it all fit? Amnam iser Bal Yachel einu b'shvil ma'isa hatiglachas v'atuma. Therefore, Bal Yachel is not on, I violated my word against shaving my head, or against contracting tumah, or against drinking wine. I never accepted upon myself that I'm not drinking wine, or I'm not cutting my hair, or I'm not going to a cemetery. What did I accept upon myself? I accepted upon myself my nazirus. Elakiven sha'Torah gazra al Torah nazir li shamer mikol elu. Rather, it's that the Torah has put on me these prohibitions now that I've accepted the nazirus upon myself. I've accepted upon myself to be a nazir. Because you over alachas mehena who over al Torah's hanazir. Therefore, when I violate by the nazirus through drinking wine, essentially what I did is umechalel dvarav shenadar benazir. I violated the nazirus. Vihine hanishba shelo lishtos yayin va'achar kach nadar benazir. Now let's get back to our scenario. I have accepted upon myself a shvua to not drink wine. and then I accepted a kedushas nazirus. Okay. Lo chaya le'alav de lo yishte mishras anavim de'in iser halal iser. There is no iser of drinking wine that fell upon the iser already in place that I took upon myself to not drink wine. Meaning I took a shvu, I'm not going to drink wine, and then I accepted nazirus. There is not a separate prohibition of you cannot drink wine now. What is there? There's a kedusha of nazirus, but not a prohibition that I've accepted upon myself to not drink wine. So kolol de tirachas v'tuma loy mahani. You can't call nazirus then an iser kolel. Why? Because they are just manifestations of a kedusha that I accepted upon myself. The la mishem echad hein. They're not all mishem echad. V'lo have kashelan ella alav de bal yachel. So now our question that we had about bal yachel, meaning that when I violate Nazir, I'm violating bal yachel. Bal yachel should be the umbrella prohibition that should mean that I should get flogged twice. Once for violating my shvua that I'm not going to drink wine, and also for violating bal yachel of my nazirus. So says the Avnei Miluyim, now we can understand that I'm not going to get a second set of malchus for that. Why? Velo have kashelan ella alav de bal yachel. He says, ulefi mashikasav gam bal yachel leika shahari beoso shahari biaso de lav de bal yachel. How did the Bal Yachel come into existence? Through my acceptance of the Kedushas Nazir. The Kedushas Nazir permeates from it these three separate prohibitions. So the third set of prohibitions, meaning do not drink wine, is not going to be chal in this scenario, because there's already a shvua there that makes the wine prohibited to me. Oh my gosh. Since there was already a prohibition of drinking wine on me before I accepted my nazirus based on my shvua, so therefore when I accepted my nazirus and therefore had the kedushas nazir come upon me, so yes, that branched out to a number of prohibitions. Do not cut my hair, do not go to a beis hakfaros, but it never permeated out in this particular scenario to do not drink wine, because there was already a shvua in place.
What about with is that just for a case of Nazir or all cases? Like, let's say with the M&M case?
That only by Nazir, because it's that I'm accepting a kedusha upon myself, and the kedusha is what is prohibiting me in these things. So it's specifically by a Nazir. Not the candy case. The candy case, it will be a double whammy, because I have created an umbrella prohibition on top of a pre-existing one. Here, this is not an umbrella prohibition. It's an umbrella kedusha, that through the kedusha, prohibitions are created, and the prohibition of do not drink wine is not going to be created in the scenario because it already is in existence. This is the yesod of the Avnei Miluyim. Geschmack. This is spitz lumdus. This is truly how you understand nazirus. I want to just close with a famous Gemara. This is Rabbi Daniel is going to remember this Gemara. We did this Gemara together last year before the lockdown. You remember it, Tzaddik?
I wasn't in your Gemara class, Rabbi.
What's that, Tzaddik?
I don't believe I was in your Gemara class.
No, my Chumash class.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
He's a Yid. Amir Rabbi Shimon.
That means I gotta leave early, Rabbi.
You have to do Chazar Tzaddik. Amir Rabbi Shimon HaTzadik.
Rabbi comes and he gives a lot of kisses.
Miyamai lo yachalti. That's right. Miyamai lo yachalti. Asham Nazir Tamei Ella Echad. My entire life, said Shimon HaTzadik. He used to brag. He used to say, my entire life I never ate the carbon of a Nazir who became Tamei, except for one time. One time I ate the carbon of Nazir, meaning it was like a very proud thing for himself. Why? Because the Gemara says accepting Nazirus is not a good thing. It's not something that we applaud, right? It's the same thing by Nadarim. We don't applaud Nadarim. The Gemara Nadarim Daf Chaf Beis says that it's like your kilu bana bama. It's like you created an altar when you're not allowed to make an altar outside of Yerushalayim. It's adding upon yourself more problems. You already have enough mitzvahs to worry about. Why would you add on more
questions
problems?
for Yetze, Rabbi? Because I
What?
believe this Yetze issue is a problem for that.
That what's an issue?
Yetze, the next week's parsha, we have that Nadarim business.
Yeah. So there, Tosos in Chulin says that Yaakov Avinu created a neder during a time of tsar, during a time of tremendous distress.
You're allowed to do it when you're in tsar.
Exactly. Be'ez tzara, a neder, it's a mitzvah to take a neder. Be'ez tzara. That's what the Gemara in Chulin says. But under normal circumstances, why are you taking upon yourself these things? Okay. So says the Gemara, Miyama lo echalti Ashem Nazir tamei ela echad. Only one time, and he's bragging about this. Well, what happened that one time? Palma achas ba'adam echad Nazir min hadarim. This is a Gemara in Nedarim, by the way, on Daf Tesima Beis. That there was a certain Nazir who came from the south. V'rayasav shehu yafa einayim v'tov roi. His guy was a very good-looking guy. V'ktatsusav seduros lo taltalim, and his hair that was growing out from being a Nazir. You grow out your hair for 30 days as a Nazir. Stam Nazir shloshim yom. So he grew out his hair, and he had these beautiful locks that were growing out. So amarti lo. So says Shimon HaTzadik to this Nazir, amarti lo b'ni mara yisi lahashchis es aracha zehanaya. Why would you bring it upon yourself to shave your head? Meaning, why if you have such beautiful hair, why would you accept Naziros, or at the end of your 30 days of Naziros, now you're going to have to shave your head? So you're getting rid of a beautiful physical feature of your body. So Amarli, he says to me, Roa Ayisi la'aba be'iri, that I was a shepherd for my father in the city. Halachti limalos mayim min hamayan. I went to go fill up water from the well. And I saw my reflection in the water. And my Yetzer Hara at that moment pounced upon me. And wanted to remove me from the world. Meaning that explains Laran that when he looked at himself, he was overtaken. He became gaivadik. He was saying, wow, I'm such a good-looking guy. I can get whatever I want in the world, right? Bikesh letrudi min ha'olam. He wanted to drive me out of the world. Amartilo. I said right at that moment, Russia. He screams at his Yetzar. He says, you're a Russia. Why are you getting involved in a world that doesn't belong to you? The Mishu Asalios Rima Vatola, that you're telling me that I'm so great. In the future, I'm gonna be the dust of the earth. I'm gonna be nothing. I'm gonna be eaten by vermin. Avoda, that he swears, he creates a shvu at that moment of Naziros, that I'm going to shave off my head, meaning that I'm going to become a Nazir. So says now the narrative goes back to Shimon HaTzadik. Miyad amati v'nashkatav al rosho, and I gave him a kiss on the head. I stood up and I kissed him on the head. Amarti lo, b'ni, I said to him, my son, kamocha yirbu nozrai naziros b'Yisrael, that I give you a bracha that there should be more Nazirs in Klal Yisrael like you. Alecha kasav omer, because it's of you that the Torah says, ish ki yifla lindor neder nazir lahazir laHashem. That it's you that the Torah says, ish o isha ki yifla lindor nazir laHashem, meaning that you are a real Nazir. You're a Nazir that understands that this is no joke that we take upon ourselves to Nedarim or Naziris, that it is only if it's mamish l'shem shamayim, and this Nazir, I mean, can you imagine he was Fabio, and then can you imagine Fabio just he becomes gaivadik and he says, no, I have to fight my gaiva, and he shaves off his head, and it's obviously l'shem shamayim. That's what Rashi says. Why is it that Parshas Nazir comes after Parshas Sota? So Rashi says, because after you witness what happens with Sota, so right, exactly. That's a reason to take upon Naziris. But you have to actually notice it. You have to actually take it to heart. that it can't just be stam in a vacuum you take upon Naziris, but it needs to be l'shem shemaim. It's to be a model for us in general, that we have to be very conscious about the way that we do avodas Hashem. All right, we'll stop here.